Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to quickly cover how earthquakes are created. Now an earthquake is caused by a sudden slip on a fault line. So if we take two examples of the Indian plate and the Eurasian plate. Here our two tectonic plates are converging, they are moving towards each other. You might also know this as a destructive plate boundary. Now these tectonic plates are always slowly moving, but they do get stuck sometimes at their edge or on their plate boundary due to friction. So let's imagine our two hands are two tectonic plates, and if we were to press our hands together, we would begin to create friction. This friction over time will build up. If you really press your hands together, you might start to see that your hands begin to shake. That is that friction, all of that energy being created. And this is the same thing that happens between tectonic plates. This friction and this energy builds up over time. And at some point, when the stress on the edge of those plate boundaries overcomes the friction, there's an earthquake, a sudden release of energy. So what does that look like? Well, if we take the example here between our two tectonic plates, this is the area potentially where that friction and that energy is going to build up. The point at which the energy gets released, we call that the focus. That's the area deep underground where the earthquake occurs. Directly above the focus on the ground surface where we live, we would know it as the epicenter. Now, when all of that friction, when all of that stress is building up and then overcomes all of that tension and it gets released, then we get these what we call seismic waves. And seismic waves is that energy that has been built up over time between these plate boundaries. Now, seismic waves, they can travel in lots of different directions. Some seismic waves actually travel deep into the different layers of the earth and can actually travel all the way through the outer core and the core. But we won't get into that today. The basics of what you need to know about earthquakes is that we have two tectonic plates that are coming together or creating this friction. And over time, that friction, all of that energy, all that stress builds up and is overcome. And that is a sudden release of energy through these seismic waves. That is your earthquake. However, when we think about the same plate boundary, so your Indian plate that is meeting and colliding with your Eurasian plate, this is the same plate boundary that actually caused the Nepal earthquake in 2015, which was a devastating earthquake. And this particular plate boundary didn't just release one set of seismic waves, it released several. We know these as aftershocks. Now, aftershocks are pretty much similar to seismic waves, the energy that's released from deep below the Earth's crust, but they come after the initial release of energy. Now, some aftershocks tend to be smaller, what we call low magnitude earthquakes, but some can actually be bigger and greater in energy than the original earthquake. And aftershocks potentially can be created days, hours, minutes, even weeks after an initial earthquake.